Ready?
You're always ready.
We are recording.
Hi everyone, we are back. My name is Aqeel Shah and we are here tonight with our 6th session on Business Success Series workshop. Tonight our topic is ramping up income. Thank you for all the people to give us feedback and we decided this topic for tonight. I would like to ask Maria to introduce our experts. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Aqeel. Salam and thank you and welcome to all our participants and guests. Okay. Sorry, everyone. We'll start again. So salam, thank you, Aqeel, and welcome to all our participants and guests who will be listening to these recorded workshops around the world. Now, the purpose of these series of Survive and Thrive business workshops is to raise one's abilities through education and to be able to handle any situation in life through the tips and tools that these industry experts are providing. One can help themselves, their family, and loved ones to flourish and prosper. So I encourage all participants to forward their questions to the chat box. And for those who will be listening to our recorded business series on social media, please forward your questions to educationsuccessinformation@gmail.com. Now, if any of the participants and listeners would like the industry experts to talk about a specific area of business, please email us, and in our weekly workshop every Wednesday, we can take up your topic. So for this evening, our topic is all about ramping up income. So get your pens and papers ready to take down some really simple educational tips. Now, our first industry expert to talk about this is Mr. Asheen Grogan, also known as a 200 million business coach. He's an entrepreneur, international consultant and speaker. Asheen knows what it's like to have debts, lack of sales and difficult staff. All of the challenges that you're facing right now as a business owner, he has personally experienced, but more importantly, all of these difficulties he has managed to conquer. Asheen founded his company, Executive Success, in 2008, and since then he has consulted businesses in over 50 industries, ranging from startups to public companies with turnovers in the hundreds of millions, and has been able to grow and streamline all types of businesses. Let us give a very warm welcome to Mr. Asheen Grogan.
Hi, thanks, Maria. Nice to see you all. Okay, good. Well, let's get going. So the two things we're going to cover tonight, as Maria said, is ramping up income. And I'm going to give you some simple things that are so simple you probably won't believe it. You've got to try them to find out. And I think Peter's going to more cover how to keep the money when you've made it. Okay, so here we go. All righty. So shoot me questions as we go. It's completely fine. All righty. So just by the way, I have used the information that I am going to show you to add a lot of growth to companies. So just because it's simple doesn't mean that it doesn't work. In my experience, it's the simple things that are applied and embedded in an organization that make the biggest difference. All righty, here we go. So we're going to cover the #1 law of making money or income. So we've covered me, that's my family. Good, get a pen and paper ready. So let's talk about money. Ooh, money. Have I got your attention? Money. All right, hopefully I've still got your attention. Okay. All right, good. So last week we spoke about 3 things, right? I just want to orient you to just so where this fits. We had quantity, quality leads to viability, right? So see the video for that one. But tonight we're going to talk about quantity, and you're going to see why. And if you hear me speak, you're going to hear me speak about this a lot, because this is the weakness that you see pretty much most of the time. 9 out of 10 times, this is the weakness. All right, so let's look at your business. As we covered last week, you know, it's delivering value and results. It's outflowing these to its customers, right? Out they go. And then what happens is most of the time, they give you money, goodwill, referrals, repeat business, and stuff like that. But the problem that can happen is that when you have a money problem, like if we look at this, let me share the screen with you. When you have a money problem, so here's you, and your money's gone down. Might have happened recently. And you start looking a bit like this. And then what you're looking for, you start looking around for money. And really what you're trying to do is get money to come in. And money flows in. It's an inflow, right? It's an inbound thing. So here's the problem. When you start worrying about how much money you're going to get and trying to get money from places, most people start looking at the wrong, we say the wrong sequence of events. So if we go back to what we were just looking at, money comes in. Let me just annotate this, actually, this will work. Let's see, we go. What happens first, right? Number one is you send something out. Something goes out. You outflow and then you inflow money. So it's the wrong part of the sequence. If you're worrying about where all your money's coming from and you're looking what you can get, it's actually secondary. You should be focusing more on this, outflow. All right. And I'm going to show you why, and we'll talk about some more things you can do. Okay, it's always entertaining when I use this function. You start drawing all over your screen. Okay, oh, now I've got to get rid of that. There we go, clear. Beautiful, all right, good. I assume you can see the slideshow again. All right, so next thing. This is from the Hubbard management system. The key to success is outflowing. Got this, guys? In everything, money, career, doesn't matter whether you're a business owner, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. This applies to everything. But we're going to talk about money and business here. The key to success is outflowing. The more positive you are, the more you outflow. Or you could say the more you outflow, the more positive you are, right? Let's think of an example. You know, remember a time when you were really happy and outgoing and you're getting on well at a party? Can you think of a time? You know, you were having a great time. You weren't worried. You weren't insecure. You were positive. Well, look at it. You were outflowing, weren't you? You could communicate. You were talking to people. You were doing things. You see? That's what it means. The key to success, the key to being positive is outflowing. And the reverse thing, when you get negative, you kind of just let me go and hide in the corner over here. You see, it's an inflow. It's not an outflow. So this gives you a clue on how to bring yourself out of any slump. All right. So the key to success is outflowing. The more positive you are, the more you outflow. So this is how it goes. You communicate with your customers. There's many ways to do this, right? There's entire books written about this and many expensive internet courses. Anyway, that turn up in your Facebook feed. Anyway, communication, promotion, and of course, value, results, services, goods, that sort of thing. All right, so this is the key if you want money. It comes first. Of course, you got to collect the money, but it's much easier if you've done service and value and results, right? Okay, so then your business should be the center of a tremendous amount of outflow of products, services, communications, etc. Okay. Here's a bit more from this quote. When you outflow, you are attracting interest and you attract more business and more income. So you got this. When you outflow, you're attracting interest. So here's the thing. Have you noticed that when you communicate, you actually get interest? People like start looking at you. Like there's people looking at me right now. So if you're as a business owner or a person are a bit shy or don't like getting attention, you need to handle this because you're literally cutting your income ability. If you don't want attention, you can't make as much money. Simple as that. You know, someone's got to know you're there to give you money or give you a job or give you a, you know. So that's the first thing. All right. So when you outflow, you're attracting interest and you attract more business and more income. If you do not outflow, you lose business. Simple as that. Money is not a sordid subject. Sordid means a dirty, you know, dirty, horrible subject. Money is not a sordid subject. It is the measure of the amount of attention you are attracting. That comes from L. Ron Hubbard, Hubbard Management System. Okay, so there you go. So one of the key things, if you want to make money as a business, is you've got to get more attention from your customers, your past customers, and potential customers, right? There's different scales of customers. Okay. So now I'm not a fan of the Kardashians, right? But you could say one thing: they're rich and they're good at getting attention. Whether it's for the right reasons or not, they get attention. And one of them, I don't know which one of them, just one of my kids told me, was it Kylie Jenner? She put out a thing on Instagram saying, I want to be a billionaire, give me money. And just because she put that out there, which was an outflow, she got a whole bunch of money and became a billionaire just because it doesn't make any sense, right? But if we look at it from that quote, that piece of information, they get attention. So preferably it's positive attention. I think, you've got to question how much value is there, but that's just my opinion, right? So anyway, all right, but let's look at what I think is a better example. Let's look at Richard Branson and Virgin. If you've ever followed him or read his book, this guy has been getting a lot of attention, doing all sorts of publicity stunts for a long time. So he's almost died several times doing ballooning around the world. He did that for something I can't even remember. He jumped off a casino and wedgied himself. Like wasn't going to show you the photo. He ripped his pants in this. He's got a really bad wedgie here. All right, but we're talking about it, right? So he did that. That was in Nevada or somewhere. That's New York. He was launching Virgin Cola, right, with a tank. Gets attention. That was for something else. Here's the last one. He got in an amphibious car and he drove across the English Channel. I don't remember why, but it got attention. And he's very rich. He also makes sure that most of his businesses deliver great service, and normally a better deal for the consumer. And that's part of his purpose. So, but the point is that he gets attention. And there's other ones he's done, outrageous ones, hilarious. So what do you do if you're not Richard Branson? That's the question. You don't have a balloon. Well, this is the last thing we're going to cover, and you've got to just try this to see, okay? So, and it's called, it really is the #1 law of making money in business. It really is. And here it is. The size, not the quality. Now, bear with me. I'm going to cover all the different parts of this. The size, not the quality of an org's. Org stands for organization. So the size, not the quality of an organization's mailing list, and the number of mailings to it determines the gross income of an organization. So let's just break that up. Gross income is just revenue. It's how much money you make, before you take off tax and things like that. So let's look at this again. The size, not the quality. So this is what we covered at the start. It's the size, firstly. Size matters here, not the quality. So the size, not the quality of an organization's mailing list, and the number of mailings to it determines the gross income of an organization. So if you know this and you use it, you can make any business make a stack load more money. And I've done this a lot of times. So firstly, it's the size. So if you've got a pen and paper, I'd be looking at your business right now and going, okay, do we have a large mailing list? Is it all in one place? One time I went into this business and he had a mailing list of his paying clients, but he had a lot more quotes. And this person had all the quotes, and they're all just in stacks, and he just never did anything with them. And of course, I got him to put all of these quotes. He paid one of his kids, I think, to sit there and enter it all into a spreadsheet or into some emailing software. And anyway, get all of the identities so they could be communicated with. So it's the size, firstly. All right, next thing. Then, and this is the next part of it, and we're going to put it together at the end. And so it's the size, not the quality, and the number of mailings to it that determines the gross income. So what happens normally is this. People go, yeah, but I send out an email once a month. I go, great, good. Or once a year, actually, sometimes. And it doesn't have to be just email. I'm just talking about email, right? There's many ways to apply this. Mailings, communications, outflows, right? You can substitute that. So, but I send out one once a month or once a year. What's the next answer if you want to increase your income? Send one fortnightly. Now you can use your judgment here, but it's the size of the list and the number of mailings. And you're going to have to get over your lack of willingness to get attention, to communicate if you want to make more money. Simple as that. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. So here we go. Next part. So the number of mailings determines the gross income of an organization. All right. So here it is in full. Now, and then we'll look at how to apply it. And that's all from me for tonight. The size, not the quality, of an organization's mailing list and the number of mailings to it determines the gross income of an organization. So literally, if you take an organization that's doing X amount of mailings and X amount of phone calls and X amount of ads, and you just double it, just sheer, I didn't say quality, its income will grow. Now, there's different ways you can do this, right? I'm just going to give you a couple here. Emails, like get their address. When you put the mailing list together, get their emails, get their actual physical address. It's more expensive to promote to it, but it's something you can do and it can be very successful. Phone number, LinkedIn, text, all these ways is getting identities that you can put together in lists, okay? So we just covered that. So here's the last point on this. Existing customers are the first mailing list you contact. These are the people who've already worked with you, who've already communicated with them. Hopefully on most of the cases, there's more trust with them because you've delivered a good service. Just because they didn't do business with you for the last 3 years doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to them. Anyone ever had that thought? Yeah. I don't know. And when you start communicating to them, you might get a few complaints, but this is good. They're telling you about it. This is excellent. You can now handle it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Get communicating, outflowing to your customers and do it in a higher and higher volume. And it's just like the ocean behind me, right? If it goes out, it has to come in, right? If you push water out from the beach, it's got to come back in somewhere. And it's very similar with promo. I just thought of this analogy, but it's very much true. Because it's not always, you might be promoting away and you're going, oh, what's happening? You've got to be persistent with this. So if you're on an island, this is meant to be an island in the middle of the sea. That's meant to be a palm tree with a few coconuts, right? And you've got the you've got the ocean around you, right? So imagine this is your business. So if you're pumping promotion out and communication out, imagine that's water going out, which it does on beaches. There's places where water goes out from a beach, and guess what happens? It comes back in somewhere else. So if it's going out, it's going to have to come back in somewhere. The trick is, do you have the genius enough, the persistence enough to keep communicating until it does? Because sometimes people will throw out one email or one series of calls and go, oh, no money came in, nothing happened, guess it didn't work. It's like trying to catch one wave and then giving up on surfing, you know? You might have to do it a little bit more. You might have to push out a bit more. All right, you get the point. So part of this is persistence. And just as a rule of thumb, 6 weeks is often the lag. I call that promo lag. So there you go. All right, so wrapping it up. So existing customers are your first mailing list you contact, right? It's priority. And then you can even prioritize that to your best ones. Talk to them first. Go and see them. You can now in Melbourne. Call them, FaceTime them, Zoom them, whatever. Next would be inquiries, people who have had some interaction, and then you could go from there. People who, you go colder. It's the best way. All right, so there's a list of homework you'd say. Get together a list of all past and present customers. Outflow to them by any means, calls, da, 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 da. Then get to the next one, all inquiries, outflow by any means, and continue. That's all from me. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can ask after, or you can contact me on Facebook at 200 Million Coach, contact at 200millioncoach.com or website 200millioncoach.com. Thank you very much. There you go.
Thank you, Oisín. That was really wonderful to learn about cash inflow and outflow, and also to get feedback from your past customers in order to progress in your business. Thank you very much, Oisín. And Maria, would you like to introduce our second expert, please? Maria, unmute yourself. Maria.
So, okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Asheen, for that. Now, our second industry expert, continuing on from Asheen's ramping up income topic, is Mr. Peter Simpson. He founded his management consulting company, Organisation Technology, in 1985. He uses statistical methods and analysis of production processes and their management, which has saved millions of dollars. Some of Mr. Simpson's clients include Kodak Australia and Coca-Cola Amatil. Over his long career, Peter has helped small to medium-sized companies. He has saved thousands of jobs, delivered seminars and workshops to tens of thousands of individuals, and created $2 billion of savings and increased income for his clients all around the world. Let's give a very warm welcome to Mr. Peter Simpson.
Good evening, everybody. Fantastic. All right. Well, as Asheen said, whereas what he was talking about was mostly how to make money, a lot of what I'll be talking about is how to keep it. Many mistakes are made, and some are very unfortunate. I'm going to teach you one very, very simple thing, one very basic thing to make sure you keep your business together, keep your money, and don't wind up in a very bad way. So here we go. Just need to share screen. Okay, and oops, trying to get on this one. All right, there we go. So this is all about agreements in business. And as with Asheen's presentation, this is based on the works of L. Ron Hubbard, the Hubbard Management System. So many business agreements are made with just a handshake. And this is very...
Peter, your slideshow ain't up there if it's meant to be.
Oh, okay. Let me see what the problem is. Sorry. To go back to share screen.
Yeah, just redo the process.
Yeah, I just can't find the share screen button on my screen. Don't know. Hang on, we'll escape. Bit strange. I've lost the share screen button. Can you do anything at your end, Asheen?
I'll have a crack. Let me just try that first.
It's sort of, I have none of the buttons for Zoom. Why don't I just do that? That brought it back.
Great.
Right, now we'll try to get that there. Good. And navigate back again. Here we are. All right. So let's see what this looks like.
We're in business.
You're in business. That's a beautiful thing. So now let me make it even bigger and better. How's that?
Perfect.
Very, very good. All right, back to where I was. So many business agreements are made with just a handshake. We see this all the time. You know, I trust you, you trust me. We can do this. And hands are shaken. And that's very risky in many ways. So I'll begin with a story of two partners where there was no written agreement. This just arrived on my desk. It's a past client. I didn't realize he was involved in this earlier activity, but he'd formed an agreement with another person to renovate a house. The deal was they could rent it for a while, renovate it, and then buy it. But the deal was undone because the seller tricked the buyers. They forgot to ask what the final price would be when they came to buy it. And they'd created a house that was probably worth about $500,000. And the seller said, in order to have it, you'll have to pay me $1 million. The deal fell completely apart. Now, the person that's approached me had spent $350,000 of his own money and about 2.5 years renovating the house part-time. The other person had put up $125,000. The other person said, well, that's your problem. Go away. And he said, well, that's not fair. We were prepared to share the profits. We should be prepared to share the loss. Well, I'm not. That's your problem. So the man that approached me feels he's owed $300,000 from the other partner. He's already sought some legal help, and that's all fizzed. So we'll see what we can do. But because there's no written agreement, it's pretty hard to get this solved. We have the principle of affinity, reality, and communication, the ARC triangle. Asheen spoke about this in an earlier presentation. And all agreements fit under reality. Reality is agreement. And for business, the essential agreements in any group are its goals, purposes, policy, plans, and so on. These should be laid out and agreed to. This is reality. When you improve reality, affinity goes up. The partners, members of the group, like each other more, and they're more in communication. So we have increased understanding. If you increase any one of these points, all points in the triangle go up and understanding increases. Now, people think that sitting down and writing an agreement and signing that is very boring stuff, and all you're doing it is because one day you might have an argument. That's only part of the reason you do it. A big reason is you're building a firm agreement that's totally understood by both of you. That sets you up for greater affinity and better communication and better understanding. So, writing and signing agreement is a form of communication. It confirms what was agreed. It raises affinity. It improves communication and increases understanding. So that you trust each other is not a good reason to avoid putting it in writing. Some people feel that to ask the other person to put it in writing shows that you don't trust them. No, you have to think the other way around. It's because you trust them and because you like them, you're going to do this so there won't be a problem. And it cuts both ways. They can bring you in line too. So the spoken word can be misunderstood. So here we have one person and they're trying to explain a house to them. This is a house that's going to be perhaps bought or renovated. And he's explaining it to the woman. She gets the idea that no, they're not going to get a house and renovate it. It's a different kind of house and he wants her to sell it. If he isn't very good at explaining it, she can get a completely wrong idea of what the whole arrangement's about. That would be an extreme one, but it may be bad enough. So when it's not written, you don't really know if the other person has understood exactly what it is you're agreeing to, and vice versa. Or it can be understood, but only partly. Yep, she knows it's a house they're renovating, but oh gosh, she hasn't quite got it. She thinks it's a little bit different to what it is. Now we've got another problem. And over time, memory can change. What was agreed can be remembered differently. So they sat down and they agreed that they were both going to work on this house together, and there it is. And they understood that, no problem. Time goes by, and now 5 years later, it's a different kind of house they were going to buy, and it was going to be a new house, not an old house. And she says, and this happens in marriage too, you know. I have this with my wife sometimes. I say, oh, you said we would do this. We were going to go on a holiday to Japan next year. No, we didn't. I didn't say that. Oh, yes, you did. No. We can't afford that. Of course we can. Oh, no, we can't. I wouldn't have agreed to that. I'm sure we've all experienced it. Now, if it can happen like that in a marriage, in a business where it's a lot more important, it can be, than a holiday in Japan, it can get pretty ugly. So putting things in writing makes it clear, and putting things in writing makes sure they are remembered. Once it's written, it can be there for 1,000 years. Doesn't change. So we get an idea, we make sure it's understood by the other party, we put it in writing, and we both sign it. This creates a lovely relationship. Everybody knows where they stand. Where there is a written, workable and fair agreement, upsets or disagreements very rarely happen. People continue to work together happily. A written agreement helps people to feel secure. Like when people know there's a written agreement, also if they do feel a little upset, they know, well, gee, well, I better forget that because I did promise, I did sign. It gets handled that way. And if a disagreements or upset do arise, people can refer to the written agreement. That usually settles things quickly. Oh, that's what it said. Oh, yes, yeah, I forgot about that. That is there. Oh, gee, well, okay then. I guess I'm wrong. And that settles that. And when somebody seriously breaks the terms of a written agreement, it's easier to handle the matter. Here's an actual example from a client. He had a bad senior executive who did not act properly per his contract. Now, his contract, being a contract, works two ways. There was what the company is supposed to provide to him, but there was also what he was to provide to the company. But the contract said that if the company broke the contract, he was entitled to a great deal of money, $6,500 to be precise. And I actually took that contract to lawyers that I use, and the lawyer picked through it and said, well, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here about what he was supposed to do. And did he do this? And the owner said, well, no, he hasn't really been doing that. He said, can you prove that? Yes. So that was presented to this man, who, by the way, had also been stealing from the company. And with the terms of the contract and everything in place, he was removed, and the total cost to the company was just the legal entitlements like his holiday pay and a few other things. The $650,000 became about $50,000. They were pretty happy. with me on that one. But it only was possible because there was a written contract. Written contracts or written employment contracts are also necessary. Small businesses often employ people and say, well, you do this and you'll do that and everything will be fine and you'll get paid once a week. Nothing in writing, nothing. This is very risky. So contracts, employment contracts should also describe what is the minimum expected production from the employee. Like most contracts only state what the person's supposed to do. It doesn't put what they're supposed to produce. So when they don't produce that, and you say, well, you're not producing enough, if it was never specified, you really have no leg to stand on. And if you want to dismiss them for not producing, you don't have it in writing. So some people can be very busy doing what they're supposed to be doing, but not producing very much. So here's an actual example from an actual contract, which I put there, and it has a performance measure. And it says number of production line stages completed within the specified time, blah, blah, blah. This is the production line, and the person's supposed to complete an action per day or 5 of these per week. And that's in the contract. And they sign the contract on employment. That's fine. And then if they're not producing what they're supposed to be producing, you've got something to talk to them about. And if they continue to not produce what they promised they would produce, then they're not honouring their agreement. This is in compliance also with all labour laws and so on. It makes it far simpler if you need to remove someone. But also you can point out to them exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing, and sometimes that's enough to bring them in line. But that's only possible if you have it written in the contract. So from Mr. Hubbard, where I'm about to finish, if it's not written and seen in writing, it's not true. I want you to remember that. I want you to engrave that somewhere in your grey matter. If it's not written and seen in writing, it's not true. Remember it and apply it. It'll save you a lot of heartache, but it'll also help you create more agreement among the people you work with, more affinity and better communication. I have another activity. It's known as business ethics services. People come to us to sort out disputes and also to form agreements. And if anybody is interested in that, they just can contact me via charter@orgtech.org. So I hope you've learned something from that. This is very important stuff, very simple, but vital. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Peter. That was really helpful. And I believe that if you want to start any business, it should be in writing, as you have shared L. Ron Hubbard quote, which was very important in any business. Thank you for that. And now we move on to our questions session. And Maria would like to ask you questions. Over to you, Maria.
Lovely. Thank you, Aqeel. So basically, just a question for Peter.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a business, ARC is very important, and all of these agreements. Is that something that we could apply to our life in all aspects of our life, Peter?
Well, absolutely. Forming agreements is a fundamental for success of any group, whether it's a scout club, your family, even your friends. Agreements need to be formed. And if they're very important, they need to be put in writing. I had a son who really didn't seem to want to be part of the family. And he was causing quite a bit of trouble. He came home one night, he was now about 15, he came home one night, or 16, he came home to find all of his luggage, all of his possessions packed in suitcases on the front veranda. And the door was locked. He tried to get in and I said, "What do you think you're doing?" He said, "I want to get inside." I said, "But you're not part of this family. You're not following any agreements. You're supposed to be helping your mother. You're supposed to be doing these things. You're not doing any of those things. So, look, you obviously don't want to be here. So I've got all your stuff ready packed. Why don't you tell me where you want to go and live? And I'll take you there. No problem. I'll even give you some money to get you started. Off you go." He stood on the front veranda for a while and then knocked on the door. And I said, "You can't come in. Just tell me where you want to go." It was about 6 o'clock when he got home, and it was 11 o'clock at night, standing on the veranda that entire time. He finally knocked on the door and said, "Look, I really do want to come in." I said, "Well, will you be a part of the family?" He said, I guess I will. I said, "Well, here's a list of agreements you need to make. I will wash the dishes for my mother when she asks me," and so on. I said, "When you sign that, you can come in." He did that. Changed kid. Absolutely. Suddenly there was affinity. Suddenly he was even asking his mother, "Can I help you?" A little bit later, like school and this kid were like trying to mix oil and water. It just wasn't meant to be. So as soon as he could get a job, we got him a job. Got a job as a picture framer. And he loved it. And he got his first pay packet, and he was told that he needed to pay to support the family. He brought home his first pay, counted out the money that he should be contributing, gave it to his mother, and it's the happiest I'd seen him his entire life. So agreements are important. They need to be there. If necessary, they need to be in writing. They work on your family. They work in business. They work everywhere. That's the fundamental of a group. Agreements.
That's
Beautiful.
absolutely fantastic, Peter. That's a great way to get your children to cooperate and be a part of the family and contribute, etc. Thank you so much. That's a great tip for parenting too.
Well, you're welcome. Apply it. It really works. It's scary. I mean, he could have said, "Well, take me there," but thank God he did not. So
I totally agree with you, because if he packed his bags, he wouldn't know where to go, especially at 11 o'clock at night. Thank you, Peter.
okay, very good.
Wonderful.
I can further what Peter's been saying. My wife and I, we sit down every 3-6 months and we look at our agreements and our plans for the coming year, what we're doing with the kids, what we're working on, what our kind of general direction, our targets are as a family, and we write them down. And we find we have to do it more and more frequently because we get them done. And that includes policy, which is an agreement. Like what are our policies, or what's our agreements on how we deal with the kids and things like that. Yeah, so it works tremendously well, and you don't fight much if you know what she's doing and she knows what I'm doing on, so that she knows that, you know, it just works beautifully. It's harmony. So yeah,
Fantastic.
So do you find, Asheen, applying that in the home, you should always apply that in the workplace, like sit around and have meetings with your staff and get their agreements to plan, you know, the direction of the organisation. That's important as a team.
well, absolutely. But I do suggest you, as the owner or owners, of course, have a very bloody clear idea of that first before you go and take it to anyone else, because you are the head of the ship, you know. So
If I could just interject there, if you can, sorry, cut you off, but if you can remember my little PowerPoint someone has to come with the idea in the first place.
Yes.
And that's in a business, that's the owner or the boss's job, is to come up with it. If you just call people around a table and nobody has an idea in the first place, it's a bun fight. There's an old saying by the British it comes from the time they ruled India. And they had the British Raj, and one of the stories there is someone asked, "What is a camel?" And the answer is, it's a horse designed by a committee. If you want a horse, and you just call everybody into a room, you'll probably get a camel. Now, come with an idea in the first place, put it there, and then seek to get agreement to it.
Yes. Very nice. Very nicely said. That's exactly right. You can get your executives and that to give you data on how to execute things, but you've got to have the plan and the vision already. It's dangerous indeed. Yeah. If you don't. All right. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Open. Aqeel, do you have any questions for the industry
Yes.
experts?
Yes, Maria, I would like to ask a question from Peter. Peter, what would you like to advise to those people when they're going to start a business with their best friends, but they don't bother to write an agreement? They just do the verbal agreement. So what will be the advice for them?
As soon as possible, sit down and put it in writing. Yes. And preserve what's in writing. Has to go somewhere safe and can be referred to.
Exactly.
In the 35 years I've been doing this, the number of times things have gone horribly, horribly wrong just because it wasn't put in writing, it's a huge number. And it can get very bitter and very ugly. This is the worst part. Good friends, people who love each other.
Yes.
And it's strange, the more they love each other, the more they feel it's not necessary to put it in writing. And it can destroy wonderful friendships. But put in writing, that handles just about everything. And if it does, get in trouble, you have a basis to repair it. One or the other hasn't really been honouring their obligations. And when it's put in front of them and it's in writing, well, you can clear it up. But if it's not there, you're punching at shadows. It's so hard to fix.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
I'll add one more thing to that. I do a lot of deals myself and joint ventures and things like that. And just to further on from what Peter is saying is sometimes you don't want to get into putting it in writing because you have to have uncomfortable discussions. Like what happens? Like what happens if we don't make money? Because everyone's normally like holding hands and walking down the beach, and it's going to be amazing, and we're going to be billionaires, and all this sort of thing, right? So that's what all the discussion's about. But part of what you should be looking at with your agreements is what happens if we go really well? What happens if we go really well? What happens if we go okay? What happens if we go terribly and we're all losing money? So you got to look at, I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. You got to look at everything. And what happens is you work through, they're a bit worried about covering some of these subjects or money, but imagine what's going to happen when you've got $1 million on the table. If you're worried about having a discussion about money before you've made any money, imagine what's going to happen when it's $1 million. It's magnified and amplified. So the point is have the discussion and you work through any disagreements before it's that serious, so that's what I found. You work through the uncomfortable stuff, get an agreement for all the different outcomes. And normally, just like Peter said, none of it actually bloody happens because you already worked it out before you started.
Yeah. Yes, Asheen, often the problems don't arise at all during the struggle, the hard times. They come out when there is a big pile of cash.
Yep.
Suddenly, oh gosh, ideas change about who's going to get what at that point. So
I've seen people change.
Yep.
So.
All right.
Okay.
All right. That's all for tonight. And it was a good session. Hopefully, everybody will love it. And Maria, would you like to close for tonight, wrap up?
Yeah.
Maria, unmute yourself, please.
Well, if any of the participants and listeners would like the industry experts to talk about a specific area of business and or life, please email us and we can organize workshops on specific topics. So our email address is educationsuccessinfo@gmail.com. And we look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday for our series 7. And we shall be promoting that through social media. And thank you so much for everybody who has attended tonight and our listeners.
Thank you.
See everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Good